I was thinking about the video I did on Jay-Z and his comments about Donald Trump, President Tangerine, and how he said certain things. There's all kinds of ways you can pull apart and dissect Jay-Z's comments about what Donald Trump said. I really don't care too much about what he says because he says a lot. I care more about what he does, and what he does not do is talk negatively about white people. And Jay-Z has done that in his music, in interviews, within the culture, within his business practices, within the environment that he's in. Hold on 1 minute. And but I've noticed that Donald Trump, he is on code and Jay-Z is not. And that goes back to what I said about Jay-Z being ignorant or being confused. Not ignorant, but confused as a victim of white supremacy, because he is a black man. So he would be a victim of white supremacy. But there is something else that Jay-Z said where he was speaking with Van Jones on his show, on Van Jones' show. He said there's something in Donald Trump's lineage, something happened to him to perhaps make him act this way and speak this way about non-white people, specifically black people. And I was looking up things because in order to understand the pathology of a person, the things they do, the things they say, and based on what they're thinking, you have to go back to their history. You have to follow the line, and like Corey says and Darlene says, you have to check the pedigree of people. The pedigree of Donald Trump is based in white supremacy. That's very clear, that's very obvious. But I wanted to take it a step further, since Jay-Z may not know, since he's so busy with Rock Nation and whatever else he's doing. He may not know. So this article comes from Town and Country magazine. Now I need to look into Town and Country just to make sure it ain't no BS type stuff. But the title caught my eye when I was just Googling. I just Googled Fred Trump. That's it, Fred Trump. And then looked through some of the articles and some of the links and stuff, and this came up. And it's entitled 16 Things You Didn't Know About Donald Trump's Father, Fred. The family patriarch had an enormous influence on the future president. This was published, I can't see when. I'll try to find that later and put it in the description box if I can. But it starts off saying, President Donald Trump has referred to his father, Fred, as his hero, role model, and best friend. He followed in his dad's footsteps in many aspects, joining his real estate management company right after college and expanding on Fred's developments in New York City. His beloved father didn't live to see Donald's very successful first foray in politics. Fred passed away in 1999 at the age of 93. Quote, I don't think I wanted to outdo him, but maybe psychologically I did, end quote, Donald has said. Quote, you're always looking to do a little better than your parents deep down inside. Maybe I did, end quote. And this is a picture of Fred Trump on the right, Ivanka Trump in the middle, which is President Tangerine's, one of his ex-wives. And the man on the left, I'm not sure who that is. Maybe a family friend or a business partner or something like that. And that's one of 16 pictures from Getty Images. I mean, it's probably on Pinterest because they have the little icon there. So you can look at that later. Number one of 16. President Tangerine's dad, Fred Trump, was arrested at a Ku Klux Klan parade in 1927. A white supremacist rally, basically. Donald has denied this incident vehemently, but the record of his father's arrest, they have it linked in red, exists. That said, it's for failure to disperse at a rally, which doesn't explain whether he was participating or just watching. Then it says, Donald keeps a framed photo of Fred in the Oval Office. Matter of fact, let me go back because yeah, let me go ahead and click on that link. This is from the Washington Post. They published this February 29, 2016, and I guess people just ignored it. The mainstream media ignored it. But it says in 1927, Donald Trump's father was arrested after a Klan riot in Queens. Now, they say it was a riot. The previous Town and Country, I'm looking at you side-eyed now because you said it was a parade. A parade equates celebration. What the hell you celebrating? Oh, yeah, that's right. White supremacy. I forgot. Whew, silly me. That goes for me being a victim of white supremacy. I'm just silly. I don't know. The Washington Post calls this a Klan riot in Queens. And here's a picture seen as police and Klan clash in Queens parade. This is New York. This is not South Carolina. This ain't Mississippi. This ain't Florida. This ain't Georgia. This ain't Kentucky, West Virginia, and so forth. All these so-called southern states people say it's in. No, this is in Queens, New York. Queens Boulevard, where police tried to turn the Klansmen out of Memorial Day parade. Memorial Day, a holiday started by black people. Officer at the left is about to swing his nightstick over the head of white sheeted knight, whose friends rushed to assist, causing a free-for-all with 2 auto loads of policemen. That was May 1927. Then there's a video here, I'm not going to go through that, where he talks about, Tangerine talks about he doesn't know David Duke. Then there's the newspaper article, 2 fascists die in Bronx, Klansmen riot in Queens in Memorial Day clashes. And it goes down. Fist fights in Jamaica, Queens. Devonshire Road. Let's see. One of those arrested was Fred Trump of 175-24 Devonshire Road in Jamaica. So that's Jamaica, Queens. The title was Warren criticizes the class parades. They call them class parades. And they have it highlighted where it states Harvey, they list some names of people where they lived, because they put your ass out back then. They didn't hide it and stuff. It said they were released on bail of $500 each. Fred Trump of 175-24 Devonshire Road, Jamaica, was discharged. So Fred Trump here in 1927 was Donald Trump's father. Trump had a brother also named Fred, but he wasn't born until more than a decade later. Fred C. Trump. I'm going to get into what the C stands for in a minute. This is according to a 1930 census. And you can see where this is where he lived at the age of 25. That's his address, 175-24, Fred Trump. He was the head of household. They gave his income $23,000 a year. Male, white, age 25. So that's more information. Let's go down to the second thing. Donald keeps a framed photo of Fred in the Oval Office. Let's go to the next thing. Okay, we're getting into some street gals here, look like. And there's Fred Trump with an axe. Okay, this look kind of strange. Frederick C. Trump started his own business at just 15. He founded a construction business in 1920 while he was still a teenager. He partnered with his mother Elizabeth and called it E. Trump and Son. And that's a picture of Donald Trump and his dad back in the day. Number 4, Fred's own father died when he was very young. Frederick the Elder, who made his fortune in the Alaska Gold Rush, passed away due to pneumonia when Fred was only 13 years old. So basically, he was out here hustling as a teenager. He looked like a guy named Pimp in this picture. He looked like, what's the dude name? Hugh Hefner. That's what he looked like to me. Now, let's get to what the C stands for. His middle name was Christ. His parents named him Frederick Christ Trump. And I think Trump is not even his real name. I think it had an F or PH at the end, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look that up. And no, that's not an example of Trumpian ego inflation. His mother's maiden name was Christ, a common German appellation. They changed their names a lot when they came over here, and a lot of German immigrants allowed to come here in the 1880s, late 19th century, changed their last name to Christ or Christian, something like that. Or Joseph, they named their last name changed. Solomon, they used Bible names to change their last names, so they would not be discriminated against by the Anglo-Saxons that were here, that would discriminate against them for their names, because they weren't considered white then. The next thing is, Fred Trump pretended to be Swedish most of his life. During and after World War II, Fred worried that his German ancestry would hurt his businesses, particularly with many Jewish tenants. He and Donald both maintained this lie until the 1980s. They kept saying they were Swedish. Actually, they were German-based. What is that? Okay, I don't know what that is. I'll look at that later. Fred Trump revolutionized middle-class urban housing. That still is up for debate. Fred started out building single-family homes in Queens, New York, then barracks for servicemen and their families in several cities during World War II, and finally yet more apartments in Brooklyn. Over the course of his career, he built 27,000 apartments in New York City. Because remember, he started a construction company at a young age. He was also called the Henry Ford of the home building industry, because they built a lot of houses, apartment buildings, really fast, and they were low quality as well. Back in 1938, the local Brooklyn paper made the striking comparison, and there's a link for that. Another picture of Tangerine. Fred's the reason Donald set his sights on Manhattan. In the interest of one-upping his famous dad, Donald's first major purchase, with the now infamous $1 million loan from Fred, was a hotel in Manhattan. I think it was the Commodore Hotel. And he said, being the son of somebody, it could have been competition to me, Trump has said. This way, I got Manhattan all to myself. And he let his dad have Brooklyn and Queens. Next, Fred Trump had the same secretary for 59 years. A creature of habit, Fred employed Amy Luerson for nearly 6 decades. Despite his growing wealth, Fred and wife lived in the same middle-class house in Queens from 1951 onward. And I think this is a picture of one of the factories. Fred was intensely frugal. Trump said, my father would go and he'd pick up the sawdust, and he'd pick up the nails and extra nails, and he'd pick up the scraps, and he'd use whatever he could use and recycle it in some form or sell it, Donald shared in a 2016 campaign speech to the National Association of Home Builders. He also said Fred mixed up his own cleaning solution to save money on overhead costs for his buildings. And I think that's Donald Trump's mom. Oh my God. Woof. Woof. And she tried to look fancy with that colorful dress on. Girl, you need to stop. Girl, stop. Fred had a trademark car. He replaced his navy blue Cadillac every 3 years, according to his obituary. Trump and his wife, Mary McLeod Trump, at the 17th Annual Police Athletic League Awards Dinner at the Plaza Hotel in 1999. So if you think that Trump was not involved with the police at an early age, think again. You don't attend a Police Athletic League Awards Dinner for nothing. You usually attend because you're giving money. It goes on. Fred was investigated by the Justice Department for racist policies. Their Civil Rights Division filed suit against the Trumps in 1973 due to evidence that their company wasn't renting to black families. They reached a settlement in 1975 with the agreement that Trump management would put out ads targeting minority families. The family admitted no wrongdoing. Of course they admitted no wrongdoing. They on code. Wow. Here's the infamous picture with Donald Trump, Mike Tyson in the middle. He was cooling it up. He must not have known what he was getting into. and Fred Trump on the right. And Donald's looking like, why am I taking this picture with this nigga right now? I don't want to be here. So, yeah. I'm assuming that Mike Tyson just didn't know what he was getting into. Next, Woody Guthrie wrote a song about Fred Trump. One of Fred's tenants was folk singer Woody Guthrie, who immortalized him in a song. I suppose old man Trump knows just how much racial hate he stirred up in the blood pot of human hearts. Would he draw that color line here at his 1800 family project? Okay. And that picture was taken in 1988, this picture here. Let's go on. Fred lost his older son and namesake to alcoholism. President Trump's older brother, Frederick Christ Trump Jr., died in 1981 due to complications from his drinking problem. He was only 43 years old. Donald also has a younger brother named Robert and two sisters, Marianne and Elizabeth, that people don't talk about. But there may be more about them later. And finally, because, the man was old, he died at 93, and so they were saying he dyed his hair. He kept dyeing his hair, and he kept dyeing his hair red as he aged to play on that as he played on that Swedish theme. In her book, The Trumps, 3 Generations of Builders and a President, author Gwenda Blair noted that Fred Trump used a bright red, almost magenta hair dye, and that he combed up and over the very familiar Trump style. So you can see where Donald Trump gets his hairstyle from old daddy Trump. So you can say that Donald Trump is Tangerine Jr. because there are a lot of pictures. I think this one, his hair is a little bit not as red. But yeah, let's go back to the top. So this is, let's see, let me find this one. So this is the the life and times of Fred Trump, aka Tangerine Sr., as we peruse through Town and Country magazine. And I hope that this is informative for people, just as a record to see that there's a connection between a pathology between Donald Trump and his father. There is a reason for why he is the way he is. So I suspect his father being a white supremacist, well, not even suspect, he was, I'm sure, a white supremacist, because they talked about the legal issues he had with racial discrimination and housing discrimination. Donald Trump followed in his dad's footsteps, and he's doing the same thing now. Only difference is he has more power than his father had at that time. He has a lot more power than his father had at that time. So let me know what you think in the description box, or excuse me, in the comment section. I'll add this link to the description box, and I'll talk to y'all soon.